so she's so cute when she laughs.
Designing a fantasy race can be quite the challenge. Unsurprisingly, coming up with an entire race is usually complicated and extensive. It requires research and consistency and ties heavily into world building. This video is meant to serve as a guide by detailing the many things I thought about while creating mine. It's also meant to give more lore on my characters, Lucen and Micah, for those interested. These two characters come from what I'll refer to as Project CD, which has a few different races. In Project CD, humanity has been mostly wiped out by nuclear war.
Everyone in McKinney is dead.
The very few humans that remained were hunted to extinction by mutated animals that were caused by the radiation. These mutated creatures would change and evolve over time to be more civil, less bloodthirsty, and more human like their predecessors on Earth. Now they make up different races based on the classifications of animals. So we have the Mammalkin, which is the mammal race, the Crocodin, which are the reptiles, the Biren, which are the birds, and the Cambion, which are the fish. And each of these races live separately with their own societies and ways of living. We'll talk about the Crocodin and the Mammalkin since they're currently the most developed. This is because Project CD's plot revolves around the forbidden romance between Lucen, who is a Crocodin, and Micah, who is a Mammalkin. I've already spoken about Lucen, and between the two of them, he is my favorite, so I'm gonna give Micah the chance to be in the spotlight, and then we'll circle back to the Gator Man. First things first, if you're struggling to design a race, it usually means your world building is weak. I'd have a hard time redesigning Micah if I didn't know what kind of fashion his society wore. He's upper class, so what type of clothing is for the wealthy? He's supposed to be considered handsome. What does this society deem attractive? And what about accessories? What do people typically carry on their person? What's considered the normal way to dress and carry oneself, and what is seen as more odd or uncommon? Do people have access to hair dye? What about tattoos? Makeup? What makeup is in style? What isn't? Do men in this society wear makeup, or is that literally a death sentence? The last thing you want when designing your character from your fantasy race is questions. You can't do well on a trick test if you don't know the formulas. And if you don't know the formulas, you have questions, speaking from experience.
Dum 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 ass dum dum dum.
This is what's going to stop you from freezing up when it comes to putting outfits on your characters. You can't put clothes on them if you don't know what's in and what's out. Well, how do I come up with what's in and what's out? That is an amazing question. Thank you for asking. I needed a transition. This is where we get into inspiration. I used real history to create Micah's world, which helped me figure out what he would wear and more. His society and culture are heavily inspired by the antebellum period. This was a point in U.S. history when the South's economy was especially reliant on agriculture and slave labor before the Civil War. Since Micah is upper class, he wears suits similar to what aristocratic men wore during this period. His economy is agricultural and not industrial, no automation or technology, and social customs like balls, courting, and social etiquette are present as they were during that time. So his society is old-fashioned, so old-fashioned that tattoos, hair dye, and men wearing makeup really isn't a thing. People carry things like pocket watches and handkerchiefs, and homosexuality is kind of seen as,
Oh my god.
which is a problem for him. But you see how much I got by using history as inspiration? It's not a carbon copy of that time period, considering how Micah wears his hair and how dark skin is considered the beauty standard, which I'll get into later. I suggest picking a specific time period that interests you or combining a few, and once you've chosen one, look at what they wore. What was available to them? What did they wear to formal events? What did they wear to bed? What did they wear casually? And change what you need to. Just be respectful and mindful when taking inspiration from cultures and history that you're not a part of. I played it safe with Micah. This is pretty much my history.
There I am, Gary, there I am.
But I would be more delicate with Asian or Hispanic cultures, for example. You don't want an Aladdin or Esmeralda situation in your story. Both designs are made to be appealing to the Western eye that has no real understanding of these cultures with no care to understand them.
As a modern American man, I am woefully unprepared to manage a woman's emotions. I was never taught, and I will not learn. Take care, you two.
Avoid that. This is me from the future editing this because I think I'm making it too complicated in the video. Basically, you know your world, so you know what the people in that world wear, and you know what to put on your character. Simple. So you need to think about world building, inspiration, what else? Now we're moving on to something a bit more tangible. Physical traits. I mentioned that dark skin is considered attractive in Micah's society. It fits the beauty standard. Well, what's the beauty standard in your world? Do you know? Come to think of it, what physical traits do your people have in general? What eye colors are common? What eye colors are rare? What eye colors are impossible? Same with hair color and skin color. Does your race tend to be thinner or thicker? Having a beauty standard and certain traits be impossible makes your world feel a little more real. I mean, every culture on our planet has what they consider beautiful and what they find ugly, and I've never seen a human with naturally purple eyes before, or naturally blue hair. But maybe that's commonplace in your world, but you should know before you design the character. Micah's people tend to run thicker, and a plump figure is considered very attractive. They usually have curly, thick hair, which is also a part of the beauty standard. I know that their eyes tend to be like ours, brown, green, blue. Not orange or yellow or even pink like Lucen's race. So as a hot person in this society, Micah is a chubby guy with long, thick, curly hair and dark skin, and his eyes are hazel. Again, if I didn't know what traits were considered normal, what was hot or not, I'd be kind of lost in just trying random colors. So set a rule for yourself on those things to give yourself some direction. Last is terrain and social differences, which kind of ties into world building and fashion again. If there are other races in your story, how are they different from one another? Why are they different? Has their terrain or setting shaped them to be different? Maybe the air in a particular race's territory is toxic, so they're often seen wearing gas masks. Maybe the other race lives on beaches and wears scavenged bags and seashells and nets or whatever the ocean washes up. How have their own lands made them different from one another? With Lucen, the weather tends to be warm and humid. He and his people are cold-blooded, so they love the sun, and it's common for them to wear tank tops, crop tops, shorts, etc. so they can feel the sun on their skin. And their society is more modern like ours, so this is okay and normalized. But the clothing they wear would be considered scandalous in Micah's society. Their weather is also hot, but as people did way back when, they simply switch to lighter clothing material when it gets too hot, instead of taking clothes off.
How long have you been a whore?
Lucen's people still hunt their food and eat bugs because there are a lot of bugs and prey animals in the area, but Micah's people would find this barbaric. Each race can be more distinct when you think about their differences and their different lands or weather. It makes the world feel a little bigger and could lead to some interesting clashes or just some funny moments, especially if their territories are close together. Speaking of clashes, is there any sort of discrimination between your races? Any conflict? Because this could give you something to add to your character's design. Your character may carry weapons with them or have scars because of conflict with another race. For example, Lucen got the huge scar on his back from one of Micah's people. Circling back to looks for the last time, how different are their beauty standards? I already mentioned that dark skin, a chubby figure, and curly hair are the epitome of beauty for the Mamlucan, but for the Crocodile, Lucen's people, it's the exact opposite. They tend to have swimmer physiques, so skinny or muscled or both is the preferred body type. Straight hair is ideal. Their hair is incapable of curling anyway, but straight hair is considered an ugly feature in Micah's society, so is thinness. Blue and gray skin tones are deemed the most attractive for Lucen's people, but Mamlucan find these skin tones odd. But that's something I love about these two. They don't at all fit each other's societal beauty standards, but that doesn't keep them from genuinely finding the other attractive. But I digress. I'll save that for the video in which I talk about their relationship as a whole. To sum it up, to design your fantasy race, you should know your world, use inspiration maybe from history to design that world, set up physical traits, and think about their environments and their relationship to other races. One thing I didn't touch on is because it's a little complicated, but you should know the difference between a race and a species. Humanity is a species, black, white, Asian, those are races. Mamlucan and Crocodile are races. I don't have a collective name for the races as a whole, but altogether they are a species. I did it this way so different classes could reproduce, Lucen and Micah specifically. I know sometimes slightly different species can procreate, but that is a little more complicated and I just wanted to keep it simple. But that's all I got for now. I hope this gave you somewhere to start or helped you get unstuck. I know some of you have expressed interest in these two, which I love, but unfortunately their story is just not my priority right now. I have a completely separate project that I hope to bring to the channel very soon, but I will continue to make educational videos about these two, giving you more lore, just more advice on writing and character design in general. And I plan to have some little out of context comics of these two on my Twitter. But what should the next video be about? I could talk about how to write couples, in which I'll go into depth about their relationship, or I could make a guide on how to create your own OC or persona for this story. Let me know in the comments. But that's all. I'm done talking. I will see you in the next video.